This is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Ijoma Unyato.
Hello and welcome. Apologies there for a bit of a late start. We move on tonight. House of Representatives asks executive to declare a state of emergency on insecurity in the country, calls for investigation into the setting up of super camps by the army in the northeast. President Buhari visits Borno State on return from the AU summit in Ethiopia, commiserates with the state government over the Auno attack on stranded travelers. Southeast governors adopts community policing strategy in tackling insecurity in the zone at the Security Summit with the Inspector General of Police and other stakeholders in Enugu. And Kenyan government pledges to unite the country as the country's longest ruling president, Daniel Arap Moi, is buried. Plus we'll have business, sports, news from Abuja, the FCT, and of course later on our studios in London.
And on business news tonight, Federal Inland Revenue Service launches intelligence system to track tax evaders and tackle economy-based crimes in the country.
And on sports news tonight, Nigeria Football Federation appoints former Super Eagles defender and captain Joseph Yobo as assistant coach of the three-time African champions.
And from Abuja, United Nations Deputy Secretary General Mrs. Amina Mohammed challenges Nigerians to take ownership of international treaties to ensure their sustainability.
Once again, insecurity has dominated national discourse across the country today, with the House of Representatives asking the executive to declare a state of emergency on the matter. Now, that's coming as governors of the Southeast, the Inspector General of Police, and some traditional rulers were brainstorming on the way out of the complex security situation. But we begin with a House resolution calling for a state of emergency on insecurity in the country. The resolution follows a motion on the need to investigate the circumstances surrounding the killing of travelers by Boko Haram insurgents in Auno town near Maiduguri, Borno State. The House also mandated its Committee on Army to investigate the super camps set up by the Army in the northeast. Our correspondent Terry Ikumi reports.
The House of Representatives resumes plenary a day after adjourning in honor of late Senator Ignatius Longgen.
So help me God.
One of the bills scheduled for second reading seeks the integration of CCTV cameras into the national security network.
Even the Boston Marathon bombing was also resolved with CCTV footage. All of these were not government-installed CCTV cameras. They were installed by individuals.
A matter of urgent public importance is raised on the recent attack on Auna village in Borno State.
While commuters in their hundreds are waiting in the Auna village, the military left them to their fate or at best abandoned them. Disturbed that while the commuters were waiting to spend the night, Boko Haram insurgents attacked, kidnapped, and burned some of their vehicles.
I think that it's hard time state of emergency is declared in the security sector. And I wonder how people sleep in their houses, their service chiefs, and people are being slaughtered every day in Northeast.
I went there in person.
Amadou Jaha from Borno State, who has always been vocal on the issue of insurgency, tells a sad story.
As the insurgents were trying to drag the mother of that particular infant, the infant was crying, holding her wrapper. By the time they realize that he's going to constitute a nuisance for them to go away with the mother, they decided to pull him and put him in the fire. I am ready to give out my life if people in the Northeast can live in peace.
He blames the military for the attacks.
They have been receiving and communicating that there is a potential attack by Boko Haram insurgents as they were sighted in Community A and they are coming to Community B. 3 or 4 hours preceding the time of the attack, there was what was introduced by the Nigerian army known as Super Camp, is the contributing factor of all these sporadic attacks from late last year to early this year.
Part of the resolutions of the House is to urge the President to declare a state of emergency on the security situation in the country, and for the House Committee on Army to investigate the super camps set up by the Army. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
The president's aircraft arriving in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, straight from Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, where President Muhammadu Buhari had been attending the African Union summit. The president paid a sympathy visit to condole with the state government following the killing of stranded passengers and villagers by Boko Haram insurgents in Auno, a village 24 kilometers west of the capital. As part of his itinerary, the president visited the palace of the traditional ruler, the Shehu of Borno, where he commends the military for their efforts towards improved security in the country. Some youths who appeared not happy with the security situation in the country expressed their anger by making disapproving comments as the president's convoy drove past. The president also challenged the traditional institutions to provide the first line of security for their people and intelligence for security agencies. Meanwhile, there are unconfirmed reports that insurgents earlier today launched an attack in another part of Maiduguri, the state capital. Residents of the area are reported to be fleeing to the city center for safety.
I have to come because I do not want to reach my base in Abuja without coming here and showing my respect for you, Your Majesty, for you, the governor, and for the people of Borno State. And I assure you that the improvement of the security will be pursued with vigor. Our problem is lack of resources. People think Nigeria is big and rich. I know what we are going through. But within that, because of accountability, we'll do our best and the result will be obvious.
More on security now. Governors and other stakeholders in the southeast region have adopted community policing as an effective tool and strategy to secure the people of the region. They were speaking at the 2020 Southeast Security Summit organized by the Nigeria Police Force to discuss strategic partnerships for effective community policing in the southeast. The Community Policing Committee, comprising traditional, religious and community leaders, will be charged with the responsibility of selecting and recruiting officers.
Barely 3 days after their meeting to discuss the state of security in their zone, the Southeast governors are back in Enugu, this time with the Inspector General of Police in attendance. They're here to discuss strategies on tackling crime through the instrumentality of community policing in the Southeast. Before the meeting, the governors went into a closed-door session with the IGP for 4 hours. This development was not properly communicated to the Ohaneze Ndigbo, and they vented their anger by walking away from the venue of the meeting. After that misunderstanding was resolved, the governors as well as the Inspector General of Police retire into this hall to meet with religious and traditional leaders for a dialogue on the subject matter.
What our people want is to own our domestic security. That is in keeping with our tradition, is in keeping with our custom. Security in the Southeast is predominantly anchored on vigilante groups. So any move to outlaw such organizations will be seen as a ploy by government to lay the Southeast bare for insecurity.
On his part, the Inspector General of Police presents his template on crime fighting to the gathering.
The divisional police officers, the area commanders, commissioners of police shall identify strategic stakeholders in their areas of jurisdictions and constitute them into the community policing committees at the various levels.
Community policing committees made up of traditional rulers, community leaders, town union leaders, religious leaders, etc. within the locality will be charged with the responsibility of selecting and recruiting community policing officers that will work within the communities.
And this appears to settle well with the Southeast governors. As they end the meeting, the expectation is that the new strategies will help rejig the system, and people can only hope for the execution of resolutions in the end.
In part two, after the break, Lagos State government says policy restricting motorcycles and tricycles from parts of the metropolis have reduced number of accidents caused by the operators. That's in a moment. Do join us again.